Hello everyone, today I want to talk to you about Update 6, the Groundwork update, which is the most fundamental change the planner has ever received. Now you may have opened the planner today and noticed that your plans are a sea of red. Don't panic, nothing is broken, nothing has been lost. Raw resources used to be assumed by the planner, as shown here. If a factory needed limestone, the planner quietly assumed that you were supplying it and however you wished, and it never asked where from. That assumption is now gone. For ore, oil, water, nitrogen, any raw resource, if your plan doesn't dig it up out of the ground, you are short of it, exactly the same as you would be short of a screw or a rotor. This is why every plan that was built before today shows red. There is a wizard that fixes it in one pass, and I will show you that in a few minutes. So I'm going to go over now an example of how we resolve these raw resources. So there's 4 ways of doing this. So I've built here a concrete factory, 120 a minute. It requires 360 limestone. In the old planner, that would show as merely just an import, and that was it. It didn't show anything else. But now it requires you to actually complete it end to end. So there's four ways of sorting this. You can either press this button right here or right here. They do the same thing. So if you press it, it'll add a limestone with a miner at Mark 1 on a node of normal. Now, at this point, you can adjust it however you wish. So if you have multiple nodes at different purities, you can change it. The planner is also helpful in that if you're short, it'll tell you how many extra impures or normals or pures at various marks that you need to fulfill it. So say here I need an extra Mark 1 at impure, so we just put that on, and there you go. A smaller change to this as well is that I've changed how we represent power shards as well. Just as nice little information there, and it also works the same for Summer Sloops. Just shows how many sloops per building group that you're using as well. Like we do for products, we also have trimming. So for example here we're overproducing by 15 a minute over. So what we can do here is we could trim this group and it'll downgrade its clock to match exactly what's required. So if you have any changes in your raw resources, say for example we're producing more concrete all of a sudden and we need to increase the amount of limestone that we've got, so let's increase that to 195, we suddenly have way too many. So there's a few things that goes on here. If the trim would result in like 0, it grays it out. So in this case, because we're massively overproducing, we're better off just deleting that group and trimming that group to match. So there we have now exactly what we need based on a new demand. When it comes to water, there are 2 options that we've got. So let's add a new water. So we've got multiple sources of water in the plan now. So it supports aluminium scrap, which now means that it fully supports end-to-end recycling, which is great. But I want to focus on 2 things here. So we've got the bog standard water extractor, which is just the building you place, and then you either underclock or whatever to make it work right, or you've got the resource well. The resource well is a little different in that you need to have various satellites. So usually you have one well of numerous satellites of extractors in it. So in order to make this work, we'd only really need for this particular factory to create one resource well with 3 extractors. In theory, what you could do now as well is that you could overproduce, of which then we can export that water to somewhere else. In this case, we'd probably want to sink it. So we're overproducing water, which is asking us to trim. We now have a surplus of water. So if I create another concrete factory that needs wet concrete, for example, and we want to import the water, we can do that now. So we can import the water from the old concrete factory. So let's call this concrete factory with well, and then we can import it from concrete factory with well, export the water at the amount that we need. We could also probably do, if we overproduce the limestone a bit as well, so let's overproduce that by, let's say, 300. Let's add a new group to just make it work, and then we import that as well from there in the limestone. There we go. So both of them are exported. Also as well, a new addition is we've added better highlighting of when a product has no demand. So it has no exports, it's not used internally, it's just sat there. Now, in update 7, we're going to add the ability to sync this. So right now it's just going to show no demand, and I've purposely made it not go orange, so it doesn't annoy people, but it does flag that there is no demand. So this might just happen naturally as you're building plans, and you will eventually have a demand for it, but for those that it's just a bit of an early warning when if you're producing something that has no demand, it will back up unless you sync it. So what you might see when you next open your plan is this modal here saying action required, raw resource migration required. So what this is saying basically is you have raw resources that haven't been properly accounted for, and it offers to help you out by correcting the different resource types via the wizard. This wizard takes you through creating a new series of factories in a batch and allows you to take actions upon them. So for example, iron ingots here would generate an iron ore factory, and it would, in this case, select a new mine factory, or we could produce it locally, so I'll do that for this one, and we can do the rest here as well, or you can just outright ignore it and handle it yourself, so the option is kind of yours. I've also added some helper buttons here where it's like you can just select them all if you just don't care for like ignore all, or all produced locally, or all in mine factories. So I'm going to show you what this looks like now. So I'm going to press apply on this. It'll give you the full kind of action plan, what it wants to do. So you can rename the factories here and now, for example. It will show you as well where it's going to export to, this iron ore, same with the coal and stuff like that. It also shows anyone that is going to be modified. So in this case, because I selected iron ore and iron ingots factory, that we're going to produce it locally, it's going to add iron ore as a brand new product on the iron ingots factory, for example. But in the case of steelworks, it's going to create a new mine, and then it's going to import it into the steelworks mine. So let's press apply. And there we go. So we've created a new iron mine, and as it said, it's creating iron ore and it's exporting it to steelworks. If we go to iron ingots, you'll notice it's added a new product of iron ore, and it's just being used internally. It's not exported anywhere, it's not imported, it's just straight up being used internally. So hopefully, with your massive plans, of which I have like a 40 factory plan, it was really useful for that. It would generate a lot of nice factories for you, and if you so choose, you can change the grouping. You can add it to a group called like mines, for example, and you can sort of drag them between mines and stuff like that, between groups. So you can use this to organize your factories as well, which is really cool. So I'm going to dive a bit deeper into the factory groups, which is a brand new feature which I hope many will benefit from. So factory groups allow you to assign a factory into basically a folder, and it's quite intuitive, I hope, where you're able to select this button here and select from a bunch of groups, or make a new group, give it a color, or you can give your own color if you choose. So let's make this hot pink, and let's give it test group. So this factory now has created a new one called test group. It's under SAM processing, and it's got a very distinct color. So if I just get rid of that, it's got a very distinct coloring. So obviously the group itself is colored. It's got a color in there. It's got a muted color in the header. You can also see in the sidebar as well, we've got the same color here. We've also got these like elbow lines, which I'm really satisfied with. I really do like that. It brings out my inner Linux nerd, where it shows the group of colors as well, and it makes it really cool to just see factories in a group and make it very easy to detect them. Now, certain times those colors get overridden when there's like an actual issue with a thing here, but these always show that the color here always shows as well, so it retains its color where it can. There is also at the very bottom of the sidebar 2 buttons here now related to groups. So you can add a group directly from this button here, or you can do it from a factory. So if you click on there and add it to a new group. But we've also got this multi-group edit. So rather than dragging a load of factories around into different groups and clicking on one and editing them and stuff like that, you can kind of do it in a batch. So what I'm going to do here is create a new group from those factories. So let's call this testing test face. Create a new group, and then you can move those 4 factories straight to that group. Simple as that. So if we can collapse all these, you'll see that that group moved. If I move like global power up to the top, for example, it's moved it up to the top. It's a little laggy at the minute because I'm using a local copy, which isn't optimal, but it shouldn't lag as much on your machine. But yeah, you can sort of see that a planner strictly adheres to the groupings that you give it and the ordering you give it. Also as well, you'll notice there's like little chips. So these are the new factory status chips, which are super useful. So when a factory is in a group and it has an issue, so for example here this aluminium has a shortage of aluminium scrap, you'll notice that it comes up as a shortage of parts. So if I put this in its own group in, say, the test group, and go find it, you'll notice that the test group has one factory short of parts, and the factory imports is something it doesn't need, and it's this factory here that's causing the problems. So you'll see here we've got a shortage of aluminium scrap, and we've got a redundant import of silica. So we don't need an import of silica. It doesn't do anything. It also shows here as redundant. That's because on this particular plan I changed it from aluminium scrap to something else. Changed it from aluminium ingot, which does need silica, to pure aluminium ingot, which doesn't need silica. That's why this shows up. So hopefully a combination of both groups and these new factory status chips helps you massively see the problems in your plan at a glance, whereas before you kind of had to hunt for them. You sort of saw a factory as red, you didn't really know why it was red, but now it tells you exactly what's wrong and exactly what to fix, and it gives you really convenient like jump points to the exact problem. Another really cool thing we've added to the planner is factory icons. So you may have noticed already that various factories here have different icons. In order to assign them, you click this here, or on the sidebar, and now you're presented with this really nice UI for picking icons. So I've given you quite a lot of freedom in terms of what you can pick. So every item, every component, every fluid, raw resource, vehicles, logistics, any building in the game. I think I've got all buildings. Obviously the buildables like foundations and stuff I've not included because that would be nuts. But any like production buildings I've added. Equipment, all that stuff, and I've added a smattering of emoji symbols, which I think might be good in there. You can also filter it down by particular categories as well. If you really want to as well, you can still use your own emojis or your own icons, as in like if you just enter them, that should work too into the factory title, but it won't show up on the side. But I think this is a really nice way to just categorize things as well. Like I do this at uranium and sand processing and stuff like that. This also shows up everywhere in the plan. So if you have a factory that exports stuff, for example, you'll see straight there you've got the icon too. So anywhere that has sort of the factory and its name, it'll show the icon along with it, with that factory. So the statistics section has received yet more love in this update. It's been changed in quite a lot of ways, so I'm just going to go rattle through each bit that's changed. So a very small subtle change in the power and consumption generation now is that we have a breakdown by factory, which is hidden by default because it's quite a long one. You can sort of see on a per factory basis how much power it approximately consumes, how much it generates, and the sort of net total. So just a nice overview of all the power that we understand. Note, it's not fully accurate and never will be because you've got buildables that use power that we don't have. In update 7, I'm going to add a way to add like arbitrary buildings in order to try and make this a bit more accurate. Things like lights, for example, that use power. So you can enter, I know I've got 30 lights in this factory, and it'll be a bit more accurate when it comes to power. The raw resources has also received a complete refresh. You'll notice before it was like a table before. I'll just show you what it looks like before. So it used to look like this before, which was okay. It was alright, but it didn't really give any information other than a total up. Whereas now what it does, it gives you not only the total, but it gives you what actually extracts that out of the ground. So you see that bauxite mine, you can jump to it straight away and see that we've got a miner on there at 2,200. So it's a lot more useful in this way. I've also given similar love to the item production. So all of the products that you make in the plan are all listed here, and it shows what produces them, and it also shows if there's a surplus or a deficit of them. So you can sort of see at a glance, like right here, we're woefully inadequate on raw quartz, for example. Frames, megafacts are also massive missing nitrogen gas, for example. You know, stuff like that. This allows you to make really nice decisions. I've also added filters as well to sort of see at a glance all of your stuff that you're short of, which is really nice. Sort of see the stuff that's perfectly balanced and stuff that's in surplus as well. But yeah, I feel like this view is really useful. Also, you can filter it. So you can search for coal, for example. You'll see coal and compacted coal, and you can just filter it down. I'm really proud of this bit. This is a really nice change to the planner. On top of that, it's not as useful, but building summaries also received a very similar change where it lists all the buildings that you've got that we support in the planner, and simply just lists how many you're using where. So like 4 particle accelerators in phase 4, for example, and you'll see that's been generated by the nuclear pasta. You know, a very small change, but you know, it helps you understand your factory plan a bit more. The factory summary has also been improved in update 6. So not only do you see all of the roll-ups of all the potential issues and problems with your factories, it also shows them, like it does on the sidebar, a breakdown of each one. So you can sort of see a lot of them are saying how to sync, this is potential blockage, shortages, etc, etc. But the really cool thing is you can filter them. So you can press this button here and it'll filter just the factories that have unhandled byproducts, or just the factories with shortages, for example. And it all shows up on the side here, and any redundant import shows up in the relevant place as well. This makes it really cool because not only can you expand it and see the same thing, you can get a full list of all your factories basically as the problems arise, making it super easy to just see problems at a glance and go fix them. So the export calculator in update 6 has also been updated. So 2 new features. First one is belts. So you can see here that we have a phase 4 intermediate. It's automatically detected that it would not be satisfied by a Mark 1 belt, so it's satisfied by a Mark 2. But the cool thing is you can add multiple groups of belts. So say for example you want to split it into 2 sets of Mark 1s, you can do that and have roughly 60 on each, and it'll say that's fine, it'll supply that. You can also split into more, you can split evenly amongst each. It also tells you as well if it's redundant. So saying for example if you want to split into 3, you kind of don't have to, you don't need to. So it won't show a warning or anything, it'll just show this as an information, so you can reduce it back down to 2 groups. It also tells you as well if you're underdoing it as well, that belt groups, you know, obviously can carry only 60 at Mark 1 and 76 are there, so you'll cause a backlog, and that just shows quite a prominent warning. So you can split it into 2. The second feature is pipes. Very similar setup. So you got a pipe group. 1 pipe group is going to be enough. You know, very similar to the belts, but basically just compatible with pipes as well. And you obviously got your Mark 1 variant at 300 meters cubed and Mark 2 at 600 meters cubed. And this is obviously in meters cubed. So very similar thing to pipes. So just belts is that same for pipes. And another very simple but really nice change is on the sidebar here. So you see this little thick line. As I scroll up factories, you'll notice it comes with me and follows the factory I'm looking at. So if I open some factories up, you'll see it follows along with what the user's kind of looking at. This is super cool because it allows you to just not lose your place. It also works with groups as well when it's hidden. Also works for the factory summary and the statistics. So as you scroll down in your plan, you can sort of see this line moving around. I may add it as an option at some point where if it sort of like falls off the sidebar like that, it might scroll up and follow, but I haven't added it in just yet. That might come in update 7 if people want it. So let me know in the comments if you really like to see it. But yeah, just a little nice quality of life there. You know, just follows you around, just indicates where you're looking. In Update 6, we've added the ability to customize the planner a little bit. So you've got three main options here. First of all is to run the raw resources wizard, which we showed you in an earlier part of the video. But the second section about the sidebar is the most useful for most people here. So if you press show group power, for example, it will show you the individualistic group's consumption and production of power. You can adjust the products. So if you don't want to see a load of icons, you can just get rid of it if you want. We have the option to show internally used products. This is stuff like that's used internal to the group, not necessarily a factory. You can show or hide that if you wish. You can also hover over each one of these now and see what the role of the product is in there as well. And also we've added building groups changing as well. So it was originally hard-coded to allow up to 1% variance of your effective output from the target. I did that because at the time there was rounding errors, but there isn't anymore. But it also allows you to have a little bit of leeway in your calculations. So you don't have to literally update every single bit of your calculations. So that was hard-coded at 1%. It can now be customized completely to what you wish. So if you want more accurate, you can just set it to laser precise 0.1, which is the most minimum value I can really give, or 5%, or even 50% if you chose. I think I actually set up to 10. I think. So you could customize it on the accuracy and the strictness of building groups to your pleasure now. And that, ladies and gentlemen, pretty much wraps it up for Update 6. I'm going to show you a quick recap. If you want to see this recap again, you can press Show Changes at the top left. But very quickly, we had mining, which is making raw resources a first-class citizen of the planner. No more assumptions are made. You have to put in raw resources now, or else the planner will nag at you. We've got miners, resource wells, and water and oil extractors to help you achieve this. We have the raw resources wizard, which if you loaded a plan before Update 6, it will automatically detect that you've got raw resources missing and offer to help you go through it and apply changes to your factory to make it work again, obviously with a big green button there to run it again as well. Factory groups have also received in massive amounts of love in Update 6, so you can now see products rolled up in the sidebar. You can see status chips of stuff that's going wrong in your factories and see them at a glance at a group level and an individualistic factory level. You can obviously assign colors to these groups as well. You can assign them directly from the planner itself. You can also use the multi-group edit to assign multiple factories at once, either to a new group or to a pre-existing group as well. Factories now have factory icons, and you can see them both on the factory as well, in the sidebar and also in the export system as well. And you can see a smattering of icons. All of our buildings are in there. All the power buildings are in there as well. Logistics, various of our icons that you might want to use as well. For quality of life, we've got the factory status indicators, which, as I mentioned before in the sidebar, not only does it show in the sidebar, it also shows it in the factory as well. Any shortages or redundant redundant imports, redundant exports, lack of fuel on generators, stuff like that, in various degrees of severity. The statistics has been massively improved as well. So now you've got raw resources broken down by factory, item production broken down by item and factory that produces it, buildings that are also by factory, and power consumption has also received a bit of a minor update where it breaks down individual generation and consumption of power on a per factory basis. Tasks have been slightly tweaked where you're able to reorder them now, and the sort of look of it has generally been cleaned up. The export calculator now supports belts, which it should have done from day one, and pipes as well. We've also added support for fluid trucks. And navigation improvements, as it shows here, if you hover over a factory or if you're looking at a factory, it'll just show a nice little indicator on the sidebar. We've also brought in a ton of fixes as well. I won't go through these individualistically, you can read it in your own time, but basically a bunch of bugs around rounding was changed and fixed. We automatically detecting a plan if you have like really minor rounding errors and just offer to just automatically fix them, as well as various other maths related things as well, like fuel generators producing fuel at 0.02 a minute, which makes no sense, just general little rounding errors. If you want to see all the changes, you can look at it on our changelog. All the details here in this video will be there as well. But you can sort of see as a breakdown all of the stuff that's changed, and as you can see there was quite a lot. If you are so interested in what's changed in the previous updates, you can look at Beta 5 update there as well, which was the overclocked update. If you wish to give us feedback, you can of course join us on our Discord server. The link is right at the top. And if you think this project is worthy of a donation, please press this button at the top and you'll be sent straight to my Ko-Fi page, and you can help support the project for future developments. Other than that, I thank you very much for listening to me ramble for this long amount of time, and remember, stay efficient, pioneers. I'll see you in Update 7.